Having fought our way upriver, 300 kilometres of dense jungle and angry rapids, a major disaster cripples the boat. There's no food, there's no way forward, but we can get over it. Having struggled so hard to reach Kwamala by traditional means, a smashed propeller left us no option but to drift back downriver and continue our journey by air. At a remote jungle airstrip, we said our reluctant goodbyes to a crew with whom we'd shared so much over the last few days. Kwamalasamutu, an Amerindian settlement near the border of Brazil, is Suriname's most remote tribal community and home to the Tirio people. On arrival, we were immediately ushered into a meeting to explain our presence to the village. Thankfully, a pre-recorded message from one of our boat crew, a local to the area, paved the way to a more formal meeting with the Grand Man, or Paramount Chief. You did the most important thing now.
You don't know what you do now.
Grand Man Asongo is effectively seen by the Tirio people as their head of state. Although their state isn't officially recognised by the government, he's the principal point of contact, charged with representing the interests of his people.
He said, his tradition and his culture is very important. He wants to do everything to let the village come up. It is very important that his children can educate a little bit more to manage to live in the world how it is today, because the world has changed. He wants to use modern equipment, but without losing his culture.
With that, the Grand Man granted us rare access to the village and an opportunity to explore the life and culture of his people. This is a huge pot of kasiri. Kasiri is a mildly alcoholic drink. It's actually made of a poisonous root called cassava. Traditionally, the women would sit round chewing the cassava, chewing it in their mouth, mixing it with their saliva, and then spitting it into a big pot. And that would actually ferment it into an alcohol. Nowadays, they use yeast. It looks like porridge, actually. Cassava can be used in a number of different ways and forms a staple of the Tirio diet. It's a big piece of bread. It might seem idyllic, but even the most basic task can mean a lot of hard work. The tribe's survival is still very much dependent upon making the best use of their environment. It's incredible. As I've walking around the village this afternoon, in every single hut that we pass by, there's someone preparing something or making something from the forest.
What is this?
The village as a whole still rely on bushmeats caught the traditional way by hunters using bows and arrowheads. These are fashioned from tropical hardwoods using the jawbone of a wild boar or white-lipped pig. Sharp. The Tirio have learnt to use everything, from the root to the highest leaf. This is comfort in the making. It's a Tirio hammock. It's made from fresh cotton picked and spun in the area. Now, it's a lot of work, but every second's going to be worth it, because once you're in this, laid out between the trees or in your hut, you never want to get out. In one part of the village, a more endangered resource was being harvested. If you've ever wondered where those beautiful little tropical multicoloured birds came from, as I have, then look no further. There's just a few birds in here. Cultural links with the past are strong here. And yet I can't help wondering what the future holds for the Trio children. As my first day in the village drew to a close, I reflected on the warmth and openness with which I'd been greeted. A rare opportunity and insight into the harmony that exists between the Trio people and their environment. It all seemed so idyllic. The tranquility of Kwamalasamutu does a good job of disguising the strong current of change here. The grandman had honoured us with an invitation to his hut.
Hey, Fritz.
And hurriedly I prepared for a new day of discovery.
Ready?
To make camisa. They wait for you.
Really? Okay.
A krutu is a traditional meeting of village leaders. Seeing Grandman Asongo in full tribal dress was a good sign that he wished to discuss the tribe's position and how life has changed for them in the 21st century. The grandman explained how they used to hunt with only bows and arrows, barter and exchange caring for all their needs. Then in the 60s, an American arrived and introduced them to the trappings of the outside world, money. And from there was no going back. A major issue for the Trio is land rights.
This is the first card they make. See, you get the symbols here. This is a bow and arrow, that means it's for hunting. When you see a sign like this, that means there are medicine plants. Medicine plants, that's our medicine plants. You want to have this area to control it. Then nobody can cut wood, nobody can go looking for gold or things. He wants to save this area for his people, also the forest tribe. Because these are the things what they need to keep this tribe alive.
The Trio's vast ancestral knowledge of their environment may actually hold the key to future development. Bioprospecting is one of the most exciting sides of conservation at work here in Suriname. And what it is, it's where ancient knowledge meets modern science. Shaman working with biochemists to try and find cures for illnesses, cancer, AIDS, malaria. Here in Kwamalasamutu, there's two organisations working towards that. One of them is ACT, the Amazon Conservation Team, and the other one is Conservation International. Intrigued to find out more, I joined Shaman Nataya and members of ACT on a journey into the forest. Working hand in hand with the local communities, ACT's main focus is to help preserve ancient knowledge for future generations. Over centuries of trial and error, shaman like Natalia have developed a deep understanding of the medicinal qualities of the plants around them. An intimate relationship with their surroundings has always been key to their survival. However, in recent years, changing values have meant that less tribespeople are interested in the old ways, and as a result, much of the old knowledge has been lost.
Wow. If you've ever tasted quinine, or paladrin, or nivaquine, or larium, all pharmaceutical drugs for the treatment of malaria, they all have something in common. Incredibly bitter taste. It's quite amazing, actually, walking with Nata through the forest. I can see the way he looks around. It's like he's in a pharmacy, whereas I can't see what the labels look like. Everything around him is something that he can use. It's for stopping the flow of blood. If you've got a deep cut with your machete when you're hunting in the forest. According to Conservation International, around 1 in 12 pharmaceutical drugs sold in America are derived from rainforest plants.
so it's not surprising that in the 21st century, modern medicine is going back to its roots. In the contrasting world of a biotech facility in Paramaribo, I met with microbiologists to learn about this unlikely collaboration. Working with Conservation International, shaman provide plants they've used for centuries.
Till now we have made about 5,000 samples of the collected material, and we screen them here on antimicrobial activity, and we selected about 50 of them that are promising.
It was fascinating to see how traditional knowledge was being embraced by the scientific community.
I know some old physicians who believe, physicians who have stayed in the inner of the country for a longer time. They believe they also have seen things they can explain with their knowledge on the university. But I think they have something we can't understand, but which is very important. It could be very important for us. And what I think also is that we must pay them for the knowledge if there are really things we can use too.
Earnings from the discovery of useful drugs are potentially enormous. Shaman Kamanya used to contribute to the program.
What incentives are there for shaman like himself to work with these companies? Does he think that it's a good collaboration?
Omdat mina baka, omdat buy me, daarom niet vrede no.
Yeah, he says
daarom dens mina sorry.
Yeah, he says they don't benefit at all. That's why they stopped giving samples now.
Puto, maar ik ben thinking, voor is maar abi 8 nanga.
One American girl was sick.
Maar ik spende 8 spende jasa tak.
She had AIDS.
Abi jasa, maar niet gebruik ba.
And he cured her. And some of them have cancer also, and he also cured. But still he keeps that secret because he don't know how to use it.
How to keep hold of the...
Yeah, and so he wants to benefit. He wants his village to benefit and the world to benefit. But you know what happened in former days. He don't want that to happen anymore. So he says he knows the cure, but how will he benefit?
Back at Natalia's hut, we reviewed the finds from our forest walk. Treatments for head lice, malaria, and one of particular interest, a much-needed cure for tropical ulcers.
Ah, okay. It's even... this is something that Fritz and ACT are trying to do, to take the medicine from here and to register it as Katamoima.
The hospital.
I can't say it yet, but Katamoima, and it will be registered for the Tirio people.
Yeah.
In a less fortunate village of the interior, the importance of preserving ancestral knowledge is immediately obvious.
The people of Granbury are facing a little bit of a medical emergency. They've got a medicine house. This is it. But it's a bit of a historical building because there aren't any medicine men left. They've also got a clinic, but there aren't any supplies. Now, the villagers invested their faith in the modern medicine and started to forget about the traditional healers. There used to be a lot of elders or bussy men that understood the ways to use the forest around them. Unfortunately, over time, the elders died without passing on that knowledge. Now, in 1996, the clinic ran out of funding and ran out of supplies soon after, leaving the village without any means to care for the ill.
Now, one of the biggest problems in this area is malaria. And a cure for malaria, or treatment for it at least, is found locally around here. But they don't remember how to find it. I think that's really ironic. Efforts to prevent this from happening in the Tirio village are underway.
These are the children of Kwamalasamutu. They're the trios of the future. At the moment, funds for schooling here are quite low. Hopefully, some of them will be doctors, some of them will be lawyers. But I really hope that a few of them will be shaman. I'm here in a classroom that's been built specifically to teach the children about nature.
And the lessons aren't confined to the classroom. With one of the most diverse forests in the world on your doorstep, there's a lot to learn. At this level, the lessons are simple ones. The old shaman showing the children how to recognize, collect and record plants with a history of medical use. They are the recipients of a unique education, retaining ancient knowledge in a quickly changing culture. As the day came to a close, I looked over a scene that could be played out in any town or village. A vision of a modern tribe, a proud people dependent on nature, looking for a way to apply themselves in the 21st century. The next morning, I was about to meet one of the most humbling characters of my life. Tuatu Apon is an Akurio tribesman,
Runningman.
one of the 10 smaller tribes that have made Kwamala their home. The Akurio were a nomadic people and the last group to emerge from the forest after influenza claimed the lives of all but a few.
And this hard work, yeah. I can agree with that one.
Very long to cut wood with it, is what he explained.
But when this man dies, so does his culture, in a way. He's only one of the very few pure Tirio left. And I think that's something very tragic. Just looking at that man, everything about him, his eyes, his expressions, the way that he just, I don't know how to explain it, but very, very powerful, beautiful presence. And I don't think I'll ever forget that one. I've got a little reminder of it too.
With our time in the village coming to an end, the grandman came to watch as we uploaded our observations to the web. Seizing this rare opportunity, I showed the Tirio chief how we'd tried to relay different aspects of their culture to the outside world.
It's our last night in Kwamala, and we decided the best way that we could say thank you was to throw a little party, and we bought a big vat of Kasiri beer and invited everyone in the village to come.
On arrival in the village, I really had no idea what to expect, and if I'm honest, I could only have dreamt of the warmth and openness with which we were received. It was going to be a reluctant goodbye. The arrival of a plane in a village like Kwamala is always a big event. And as I came to greet our old friend, the crazy jungle pilot, Robert Overeem, so did half the village.
Thank you for flying Overeem Airways. We'll be cruising at an altitude not higher than 3 inches from the jungle canopy.
If I'd learned anything from my time with the Tirio people, it was that the jungle is their supermarket, their pharmacy, and so much more. The shaman's knowledge may hold immense potential for all of us, but only if there are clear incentives for the tribe, and the forest remains intact. Charting a spectacular route through jungle-clad mountains, Robert took us to the very fringes of Tirio territory and the start point of our next adventure.
This is Tepu, a small Tirio village on the Upper Tapahoni, one of the main rivers in Suriname. Now in this next section, we'll be travelling downriver through two different territories really. One is Amerindian, Tirio and Wayana, and the other is Maran culture called the Paramakas. How long's the journey up this river? 6 hours? 4 hours?
In recent years, this area of Suriname has attracted eco-tourists from around the world, and it's easy to see why. Hemmed in on all sides by the intense natural beauty, the more adventurous traveller is drawn to the pure escapism of this wild and remote place. We were heading for the small Waiana village of Palumu, a community involved with ecotourism. One of the things that I've been asking myself about ecotourism as we've travelled from village to village is what sort of impact does inviting outsiders have on the community? What's the effect of bringing in large groups of people? And how do the community feel about it? What do they gain? Tourism is in its infancy here. I met briefly with the village captains to discuss their experience of it.
Not many tourists are coming, not many things are sold, but still working for traders, animal traders, they have to work hard, sweat a lot, only for a few money. And here, it's much easier.
Is tourism a good thing?
Tourist per upaya tourist nai kure iwesta sembona.
He loves tourists, but only those that came here, that comes here with clean hearts. So those who are with bad ideas, he don't want to have here.
One tour operator in Palumu is Metz. I met with their camp coordinator.
Every time we have a tour, we give part of the money to the village. And with that, they can use it for healthcare. They can use it for any kind of things that they need.
What sort of activities do you have for the tourists that come here?
You have two different kinds of tourists. You have tourists coming just to know more about the people or about the forest, or they are just here to have fun.
And serious fun was what we were going to have on our next excursion, having chosen a more adventurous route than most tourists would. We turned off the Tapahoney River and left the rapids behind us. We're now on the Tusu Creek. Now, we're on our way to the base camp of Roosevelt Peak, a small mountain in this area, about 710 metres high. Climbing Roosevelt normally takes 2 days, but we decided to try and make it in 1. However, before we even got to climb the mountain, there was a treacherous trek through dense undergrowth. Weaving my way through an assault course of natural obstacles, it wasn't long before I realised it wasn't going to be easy. Now, I'm not a mountaineer, but I guess you don't have to be to climb mountains like this. It's a rare experience that Suriname offers a tourist or would-be adventurer. A chance to climb a virtually unexplored peak that few people have ever even seen. Just a little bit further and there's a little forest up here. Thanks, Dion.
Thank you.
I can see why not many poor tourists. I can see why not many tourists make that climb. It's a pretty scary experience, especially that rock face with the... What a fantastic view. But it's under threat, and we'll be looking at that next time. Now, ecotourism generally involves a little bit of adventure and a lot of nature. Just a walk in the park, really. Gently down the stream. Da, 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 da. Hey!